it's off to the races at the Daily Wire. They're all trying to get on this gravy train. Here's Michael Knowles. It's one of the guys seems to be left behind, right? I mean, for a while, he's really been overshadowed by Matt Walsh's genocidal mania.
Both pretty untalented and lacking in charisma, so they go to the most hateful spaces they can quickly.
Knowles, another failed actor.
Here is Michael Knowles talking about another piece of anti-trans legislation, this one in Kansas.
In order for women to have the right to have their own bathrooms, you have to ban transgenderism entirely. You can't just ban it for the kids. It's got to be entirely. In order for women to be able to have their own locker rooms at the gym, you have to ban transgenderism entirely. In order to protect businesses from having to participate in weird occult sexual rituals like the transgender transition, you have to ban transgenderism entirely. I love this bill because it is so much more aggressive than the other bills we've seen. I don't mean to knock the other governors and the other state houses. They've done a great job laying the groundwork, but this bill goes much further, and it reminds us of a truth in politics that Republicans all too often forget. You're either on offense or you're on defense. You're either making gains in the culture or you're losing ground in the culture. There's no standing still. There's no status quo. There's no neutrality. And what the conservatives have screwed up on for at least 50 years now, probably more, is the libs make some crazy aggressive play, and then we try to dial it back by about 5 to 10%. Or worse, we try to slow it down by about 5 to 10%.
I mean, this is...
So the libs...
This is complete projection. This is an inversion of history. The Republicans have been incredibly aggressive on everything. We're seeing it in the Biden administration right now with things like, I don't know, the Iran deal or foreign policy, Title 42, the border. Like, the Republicans break things, and then it takes so much longer for Democrats to build things. But they haven't been aggressive at all.
I think his lament is that the culture has moved away from what Michael Knowles represents, which is a theocratic patriarchy. And it has. And they resent it.
But with no help with the Democrats.
Well, it's not a question. No,
it's just
human beings. Democrats. He's just saying. Yeah, he does say that. He's just lamenting. Didn't he say libs? He's lamenting. He's just lamenting.
Gay rights.
That
civil rights.
Gay people. I mean, we're talking 60 years. What happened 60 years ago? Civil Rights Act.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just lamenting the fact that women, black people, gay people, trans people have gotten rights over the years, and that he's complaining that conservatives have not passed legislation to force these people to be second-class citizens again. That's what he's lamenting.
Yeah.
That is, it's the same complaint you would have gotten from, frankly, the theocrats who run Iran, the fascists you would have in Russia. I mean, people forget, like when a Pussy Riot and like, you know, within the massive gay bashing that was going on years ago in that country. This is what he's lamenting, and it is a lament for him, without doubt. He is a theocrat, just like the rest of them at the Daily Wire. And he resents the fact that there is progress being made in terms of like emancipation for black people, women, gay people, trans people. That's what he resents. I mean, and he's dressing it up as if it's like some type of like, you know, like, yeah, like it's like some type of game. But that's the fundamental, and I do mean fundamental problem he has with our society is that he's no longer automatically by the fact that he's a white guy, the top on the totem pole. That's what his problem is. Continue.
And we try to dial it back by about 5 to 10%. Or worse, we try to slow it down by about 5 to 10%. So the libs attack the family through feminism, the fundamental political institution. They claim that men and women are basically the same. That takes the culture pretty far to the left. And then
pause it. What was the legislation? What was the feminism legislation that was passed?
Right.
No, what they're complaining about is they don't like humans progressing where everyone is given an equal say in society within, limitation, obviously, because like we live in a capitalist society and there's a hierarchy that's imposed by who has the concentration of wealth. But he wants the government to legislate that women need to be subservient to men.
He's conflating cultural evolution and shifts with like democratic plots because that's what they do. They try to fight it in the state houses.
He's
that's
a theocrat.
Yeah.
He's a theocrat. He doesn't like the way that the culture's progressing, and so he wants to take power in a minoritarian sense, because that's what the Republicans, that's the only option they have at this point.
Yeah.
They'll control the Senate with less voters. They've controlled the White House with less voters. They've controlled the Supreme Court with less votes. He wants to impose his fundamentalist values on the rest of us. This is what a theocrat does. Continue.
Feminism, the fundamental political institution. They claim that men and women are basically the same. That takes the culture pretty far to the left, and then conservatives try to inch it back a little bit, but not by the time they're even thinking about inching it back, the libs push forward with the normalization of other sexual practices, gay rights, among other things. And then, by the time the conservatives are trying to dial that back, the libs they've lurched much further to
black people get the vote.
To redefine marriage now. They say redefine marriage. Well, I don't know. I guess we could come to some kind of terms with a civil union, and by the time you say that, whoop, they've lurched even further to the left now.
Let's also remind everybody what traditional marriage is. Traditional marriage is the woman is chattel.
Mm-hmm.
Traditional marriage is if somebody comes and rapes your wife and you're a guy, that's a crime against you, not her.
You've got a stake in that.
That's a crime against your property. And he is lamenting the fact that society has progressed to the point where if you rape a woman, it's an assault on the woman, not on her property owner. That's what he's doing. He's just doing it nakedly there in his weird blazer.
And frankly, people like Michael Knowles' ability to do what they want to their wives as their property as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is a message that does not resonate with the vast majority of people under the age of 45, 50. I mean, really, it doesn't resonate with the vast majority of people, but there is an increasingly shrinking number of people who want to go back to that fundamentalist vision. The advantage that the fundamentalists have is that they're fundamentalists and they're almost definitionally zealots. And so they'll react to this stuff. They'll eat this stuff up. The rest of the people, normal people, just go about their lives and are like, okay, yeah, good.
It's so weird that guys like this get credited for speaking for the middle of the country. Michael Knowles, his ancestry includes 4 English members of the Mayflower Voyage. He's began actor at the Stella Adler School of Acting as part of its Advanced Teen Conservatory. He graduated with a BA in history and Italian from Yale, where he produced the first English rendering of Machiavelli's play Andrea in 2012. He's raised in a Catholic family, fell away. At Yale, he experienced a reconversion spurred by ontological arguments.
There you go. He's a new fundamentalist.
He's a cryogenically engineered wasp, basically.
You just said that ontological
not
thing.
Wasp. He's Catholic.
That second clip that we have of him, he makes some point about ontology, right?
Let's go to that second clip.
That just reminded me.
The point of his first clip is he is a fundamentalist.
And then this one's more explicitly about trans people. No, it's okay. I kind of sprung that on you.
Now, to be fair, he's changed his blazer here. So go ahead.
This is today. He is now responding to the critiques he received from yesterday's.
Me advocating genocide has stirred some of you up.
Yeah.
They said that I was calling for the extermination of transgender people. They said I was calling for a genocide against. I said, what? I must have missed that part of my show. When did I say that? I don't know how you could have a genocide of transgender people, because genocide refers to genes. It refers to genetics. It refers to biology. And the whole point of transgenderism is that it has nothing to do with biology. That's what the transgender activists say.
Hey, folks, here's a pro tip. When you're having to get semantical about your calls to ban the existence of trans people as not being genocide based upon the Latin roots of a particular word or something,
I mean,
you got a little bit of a problem.
Or you went to Yale.
Right.
Yale drama, no less.
Now, I don't know how you could have a genocide of transgender people, because genocide refers to genes. It refers to genetics. It refers to biology. And the whole point of transgenderism is that it has nothing to do with biology. That's what the transgender activists say. They say, forget about biological sex. My gender expression doesn't have to have anything to do with my biological sex. Okay, well then there can't be a genocide. That refers to genetics. But furthermore, nobody's calling to exterminate anybody, because the other problem with that statement is that transgender people is not a real ontological category.
All right, pause it for a second. He slipped up there because he said the word exterminate. You don't want to use genocide? Sure. Now use the word extermination. Do you have a response to that argument? When we want to play semantics about the word, he doesn't. But he did say exterminate there, so that's in the back of his mind.
Of course,
because that's what he's parsing. And I love the idea that what did he say there? That trans people cannot be in a real ontological category. Isn't it just by you definitionally naming them? Does that not make them an ontological category? If we're gonna, split hairs
who
here?
decides ontology? It's God, of course.
Well, that's the point, right?
But the amazing thing about this is, like, who is this for? Because the audience for him in this instance is like, they don't have a problem with the idea of exterminating trans people. It's almost just like, they're doing this just so that he has like some type of plausible deniability with whoever the funders are for this network, so they're not seen to be too gross. But look, the guy's complained about women having rights. He's complained about gay people having rights. There is an implicit problem he's had with the progression of people getting rights. That implies that he has an issue with black people achieving rights. And he wants to eliminate the existence of trans people. And you don't eliminate the existence of trans people by outlawing trans people. They still exist. You're just then oppressing them. That's it. You cannot legislate trans people out of existence.
Yeah, also
it's just not any more than you can legislate gay people out of existence.
Genocide isn't also like tied to genetics. It's about classes of people, like races, ethnicities, religions, that sort of stuff. Like,
right.
Silly pedantry. It's persuasive to a fundamentalist mind if you can say, like, actually, you can only genocide based on genes, and like their fundamentalists are like, oh, okay, I guess that's a
fair enough.
Point, yeah.
Okay, it's also like, well, he was really the aggrieved party here. Go ahead.
Because the other problem with that statement is that transgender people is not a real ontological category. It's not a legitimate category of being. There are people who think that they're the wrong sex, but they're mistaken. They're laboring under a delusion. And so we need to correct that delusion. People said, well, what does it mean to ban transgenderism entirely?
Let's ban gay
Well, it
people.
means that we return to the way that American
Let's
society...
ban like women who think that they actually belong in the marketplace with men.
Yeah.
Let's ban all of them.
Genocide can't happen to anybody who's not genetically defined as like a certain race or ethnic group, according to Michael Knowles. Pretty sure that...
This is a clip.
Why did you do that to me?
15 years ago, 16 years ago, 17, 18 years ago, the big thing was conversion therapy, where gay people were many times, either because of their family pressure or whatnot, were going through supposed conversion therapy. Now, all the leaders practically of the conversion therapy movement ended up basically saying, like, you know, it didn't hold. I am now happily, involved with a same-sex partner. Yeah, it took a couple of years. But that's what he's calling for.
But they use that same argument for conversion therapy, that being gay or being a lesbian was learned or something that can be undone. It's not an ontological category, or it's not a genetic biological category, is what they would say.
It's pretty persistent throughout time for not being a proper ontological category.
And I mean,
Congressional baseball fan has a good point. Hate to be pesky fact checker here, but Michael Knowles is actually wrong on this point about the word genocide. The root genus from Greek and then into Latin means people, as in a certain group of people. As it came from ancient Greek, it obviously predates the existence of the field of genetics by like 2,000 plus years.
But this is what you get when fundamentalists try to dress up their arguments as anything but that.
Exactly. This is the thing. He's hiding the ball here because he knows that anybody who is not a fundamentalist who hears this thinks he's bat crap crazy. That's it.
Yeah.
That's why it's not a coincidence. He's a fundamentalist. Walsh is a fundamentalist. They're theocrats.
And
when they start talking about imposing their religious fundamental views on other people through legislation, they are theocrats. They're worried about definitions. Look that one up.
Yeah. Also, there were gay men in concentration camps. Just so you know.
I mean, there was people on like trans issues being attacked, like medical professionals and psychiatrists inside this.
And what did we do in this country with the AIDS epidemic, by the way? What did we do? The complete slowness and deliberate attempt to essentially just like let it run through a certain population and not address it because God put that plague upon them.
All right, let's just let it play out here.
That delusion. People said, well, what does it mean to ban transgenderism entirely? Well, it means that we return to the way that American society operated until approximately 5 minutes ago, when we said that men do not have a right to present themselves as women in public life, and women don't have a right to present themselves as men in public life. You have some limits on that. We have all sorts of limits on our speech and behavior.
Yeah, go back to Shakespeare when men dressed up as women to play female parts.
Or like World War II, where like part of those, I forget what they call them, but
like the USO was
exactly
as late as Vietnam too.
Right? Yeah.
I probably was in Afghanistan and Iraq too, for that matter.
Stupid guy.
Yeah.
Watch his go search Michael Knowles acting real if you want some humor.
I would like to do that later.
They're not Yale's not sending out their best these days.